I'm not sure if I've actually addressed this before or not. It's a very, very foundational idea, and yet I'm not sure if I've ever mentioned this in my earlier videos. But if I have, and you notice that I've covered this before, forgive me for, I guess, for repeating myself. But one of the most important skills, and perhaps the most important skill for a writer, in addition to, the ability to obviously craft good prose, putting that aside, you have to be able to write things that are specific and that are real, that are believable. A lot of people tend to approach the writing process at the very, very early stages with a sort of sense of hyperbole in their writing. They write things that are poetic in nature, but not specific and not accurate in nature, if that makes sense. An example basically I come up with that I remember really following me was I was reading a book by an author, and the author had written a passage at the very beginning. The prologue of the story was basically this very sort of horrific tale of this protagonist who has basically telekinetic powers. They have like psychic powers, killing their parents. Like they accidentally basically murder their family because they couldn't control their powers when they were a child. And the section basically ends, like the end of the prologue ends with them saying, so-and-so narrator would dream of this every day for the next 18 years or something like that. Some exorbitant number. So basically what they're saying is that here's the backstory on the character. They have telekinetic powers. They killed their parents accidentally, and they have nightmares every night about it. And then what happens is the very next scene, this person's basically going about their life in this very sort of casual day-to-day sort of environment, right? Like I think they're walking downtown in a city or something like that. Like the very next scene. That's a good example of what I'm talking about, in that it's poetic, right? It's a nice, to say this person had nightmares about this every day for 18 years or however old they were, right? It's a nice line. It's a cute little line. It's good in terms of poetry, right? Like it creates a sense of like kind of ominous horror there, and you also get the backstory of the character. The problem is it's not believable. A reader does not actually believe this. As a reader, I cannot actually conceive that this character actually had a nightmare and has nightmares every night of their life for 18 years. It's not believable. And then if they are having that, they would be in an insane asylum, right? They would be locked up. There's no way you could have this traumatic PTSD-filled nightmare every day of your life for 18 years and not be like seeing a therapist, being in an asylum, right? I mean, my God, imagine killing your family and remembering that every night. That's the ultimate torture. They would be avoiding trying to go to sleep, right? Like it's such a horrendous and such a horrific thing that it's not believable. And that's where the difference comes in right there, right? Between believability, writing things that are actually true and believable, versus the poetry, right? The writer who wrote this book, I do believe it was their debut book as well. So, I mean, obviously, I surmise this person has vastly improved their writing, I imagine, now. But they were writing, obviously, with a sense of poetry in mind. They were writing with a sense of hyperbole. They were not thinking about the concreteness of their writing. They were not thinking that their writing had to be completely believable, basically, within the context of the character. They were just thinking, hey, this is a really cool line to throw in here, and you know what? It conveys basically a sense of backstory and conveys a sense of trauma about what the character went through. That's what they were thinking, without the full implication of it. So my point, to kind of circle back to this, is you need to write things that are believable. Readers need to be able to read your story and think that, yes, for this particular character, this needs to have happened. And this is not to say that you you need to have like everything take place in the real world. Like, if you write a fantasy story, yeah, I get it. There's not actually dragons, it's not actually magic and all that stuff. I get that. But the characters and what they, from their perspective, it needs to be, their actions need to be believable. What occurs to them and their reactions to it need to be believable. What you write needs to be believed. And if there are sections that you find that you are writing where, yeah, it's just some poetic language, it's not really true, you've got to fix that. You have to make your writing concrete. It is a very foundational thing to do this. And this is often why the best stories and why a lot of inspiration tends to come from people's past, right? It comes from their trauma, from their childhoods. It comes from experiences they went through because they can write so clearly. It's not just writing believable scenarios, right? Because you've gone through it before, in a sense. It's also that you can be specific in your writing. You don't have to rely upon generalities. And so this is a separate topic, but still on the same idea. When I talk about generalities, what I mean is that if you were to describe something, right, like very vaguely, that's a generality. And often people write generalities when they don't really know their subject all that well. You get an idea of it, you get a sense of maybe what this environment is. Maybe it's a particular job they do. Maybe it's a certain family dynamic. Whatever it is, you get a general sense of maybe how it operates. But you write in a very vague sense. So your descriptions of things, your descriptions of behavior, all that, it's very, very general. It's not specific. You're not going deeper and getting into these very specific actions and descriptions, which make your writing vibrant. Specificity is the ultimate skill, I think, for a writer. The more specific you can get, the better. And it's also how you beat cliches. That's also how you trump the story that everyone's read before, right? When you can get specific, the cliches tend to fall away. The cliches don't tend to exist anymore because you're getting so specific that the cliche is gone and it feels like something original. It feels like something new, even if you get a sense that you've seen it before. And so what I'd advocate for is if you are relying upon poetic language, with the first examples there, or if you are someone that writes with more generalities because you don't really know your subject matter all that well, start getting more specific. In terms of poetic language, just read through your work and just ask yourself, is this believable? Would someone realistically, experience this? Would my readers realistically believe this? If it's about writing generalities, you need to do more research. I mean, it's a matter of just doing research. This is why writers, go on police rides for police procedures. This is why, writers go undercover at jobs for, they take a job for like 6 months doing some weird thing so they can study it, because you have to know the specifics. You have to fully understand your subject. You need to know the specifics inside and out. Yeah, but that's going to be it for this video today. Again, I feel like I may have covered this before, but going through a manuscript right now and just asking myself these sort of questions, it's been helpful to kind of reiterate to other people that, hey, specificity is the end game here. And so I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, happy writing and stay safe.